too far because I don't speak loud enough with my phone. So just you unfortunately have to get super close to my face for it to be beneficial for her. Um, so we have been, wow, there's too many tabs open here. We have been studying Srimad Bhagavatam now for some months. But it's almost been a year that we started Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's been more than a year? Yes, you remember? You know this for a fact? Yeah, it was right before the end of last semester, I believe. So I think you're right. We're more than a year we've been studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've only done 13 chapters, actually. Yes, it takes a long time. If you actually break it down and really try to understand every facet of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a life study. This isn't like a casual thing that you could just burn through. Actually, no spiritual reading, you can't burn through it. You're like, all right, I'm gonna pound this out in a day, and like you'll ascertain it. So it actually should be done slowly and integrated, slowly and integrated, and then you build off of that. And then you revisit it many, many times over. You know, I know many people. I know, like, for instance, Srila Prabhupada told this. I've heard Srila Narayan Maharaj say this. He wants their disciples to read certain scriptures 100 in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, 108 times each, you know, to really like understand and grasp it. But yes, so we're going in. Luckily, these purports help to really reiterate some very strong points. So, yeah, we'll just carry on. Where are we? You've heard of the Mahabharata, Avani?
Yeah.
Yes, you're familiar with a lot of the pastimes and things like this? You don't know. Okay, so no problem. So right where we're at is kind of like a continuation of the Mahabharata. After the whole, do you know the main war of Mahabharata? You've heard? It's called the Battle of Kurukshetra. This is where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So we are at the finish of that. Now the world is unfolding after Krishna had arranged with that the Pandavas would be victorious. And now there is a world dynamic happening here. But one of the main bad guys, you could say, he's not really a bad guy, but in the past time he acted bad. Dhrtarastra, he made many mistakes, and he ultimately did uh, he fell into some very sinful activities and had hostility towards pure devotees, which is the biggest no-no that you could do. You could do so many bad things, but when you show hostility towards the Lord's devotees, that's you're finished. So he had yes, he did this really big boo-boo, and then he actually had to suffer immensely for this boo-boo. He lost all of his sons and all of his, he was living a very disturbing life. The also then the people he tried to kill ended up going to war and ended up they winning the war, and all of his side of the family got wiped out. And then on top of that, because he had no one left, he took the people that he like tried to murder essentially, and he pretty much you know was living under their care, which is just like this is a very horrible actually like type of scenario. So he should it was time for him to find what he was meant to. So luckily Vidura, you might have heard of Vidura before, maybe not, but Vidura is one of the main characters, and he's the brother, the younger brother of Dhritarashtra. He is a very wise sage-like personality. And actually, at this point, he went and received complete enlightenment from Maitreya Rishi. And now we are, this chapter was Vidura telling Dhritarashtra what was best for him. It was to actually leave this miserable family situation that you've been implicated in and go and, practice yoga. So he's, and where did he go? The Himalayas. There was a lot explained here. And then ultimately, the conclusion is to practice bhakti yoga. But because Dhritarashtra, he made so many offenses to the devotees, that wasn't immediately available to him. So he had to, you know, start by purifying himself via the Ashtanga yoga practice. And then we'll see his destination. So that's where we're at. Narada is explaining to Yudhishthir at this point what's going to happen in only a few days. that he will master the mystic yoga perfection. He will start a fire within his own um, inner consciousness, and he will be able to, hello, hello, come on down, no problem. No problem at all. I hope your stay was good. Thank you so much. You have a great day. So, so now we're going to see the final destination of Dhritarashtra. We also saw how Gandhari will also, his wife, she took voluntary blindness because he was blind. I don't know if you know the whole backstory, but he was blind. She took voluntary blindness and she followed her husband everywhere, and including and onto the funeral pyre. This is how it was done in ancient times. It's not supposed to be done that way anymore. It should be voluntary from the heart. If the woman is so deeply attached to her husband and sees him wholly and solely as her dear connection to the Supreme Lord and actually a representation of the Lord, then she will follow him onto the fire. But, uh, that's not how most marriages are operating in Kali Yuga. And so it's criminal, actually. It was made criminal to force someone onto the funeral pyre. But she will actually do it. So now that was the last verse we did. Now we'll just do the last two verses of this chapter, and then we'll move on to the next subject matter, this is going to be a hard one to stomach, actually. Vidurastu tadascharyam nishamya kuru nandana harshashoka yutastasma ganta tirtha nishevakaha. Vidura. Vidura also. Two. But. Tat. That incident. Ashcharyam. Wonderful. Nishamya. Seeing. Kuru Nandana. Oh, son of the Kuru dynasty. Harsha. Delight. Shoka. Grief. Yuta. Affected by. Tasmat. From that place. Ganta. Will go away. Tirtha. Place of pilgrimage. Nishevaka. For being enlivened. Translation: Vidura, being affected with delight and grief, will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage. Purport. Vidura was astonished to see the marvelous departure of his brother Dhrtarastra as a liberated yogi, for in his past life he was much attached to materialism. Of course, it was only due to Vidura that his brother attained the desirable goal of life. Vidura was therefore glad to learn about it, but he was sorry that he could not make his brother turn into a pure devotee. This was not done by Vidura because of Dhrtarastra's being inimical to the Pandavas. This is Vaishnava Aparad. Very, very bad news. Who were all devotees of the Lord. An offense at the feet of a Vaishnava is more dangerous yes, Tulsidas. Tulsidas, make sure you come in that door from now on, okay? Just just for Vastu reasons, it says only enemies will come in this door. So don't be an enemy. Come, be a friend. So Tulsidas, I'm happy to see you. Yes, yes. So for in his past life, so Vidura was therefore glad to learn about it, but he was sorry he could not make his brother turn into a pure devotee. This was not done by Vidura because of Dhrtarastra's being inimical to the Pandavas, who were all devotees of the Lord. An offense at the feet of a Vaishnava is more dangerous than an offense at the lotus feet of the Lord. Vidura was certainly very liberal to bestow mercy upon his brother Dhritarashtra, whose past life was very materialistic. But ultimately, the result of such mercy certainly depended on the will of the Supreme Lord in the present life. Therefore, Dhritarashtra attained liberation only. So liberation is actually, a low destination. Of the whole Purushartha system, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, liberation is the topmost. So of all materialistic things, liberation is the topmost goal. Complete freedom from anything. But actually in transcendental matters, liberation is like the baseline. It's like if you just get liberation, you're like a poor man in transcendental matters. So actually this was Dhritarashtra. Because why is he so poor in his transcendental dealings? Is because he made Vaishnava Aparad. That's why this is the number one Nama Aparad, is blaspheming the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. I mean, Yudhishthir, he did the whole Rajasuya sacrifice. Why? Does anyone know? What was his main purpose? Yes, for Krishna. In what way? Yeah, actually, yes, because at the Rajasuya sacrifice, the whole world would be invited. The whole world would gather. It's a sacrifice that says, "I've conquered the world." But what actually happens at the Rajasuya is in the installation, or you could say the instigating of the sacrifice, there is the most prominent personality will be placed on the you could say like the altar, not the altar, the Vyasasan, which is like the seat of esteem, and glorified. And Yudhishthir did the whole Rajasuya just so Krishna could be in that position. And so the whole world would see this is the topmost personality. All the sages gathered there, everyone. And ultimately, it was debated who would be the person who would sit on there. And it was agreed that Krishna would be there. And then there's the pastime. He couldn't tolerate it. Shishupal is Krishna's cousin. I don't know if you've heard this story. But basically, he couldn't tolerate it. And there's a whole pastime. Krishna was destined to kill him. There was a voice in the sky at his birth that the person I forget, he had four arms. And then the person who makes two of his arms disappear, that will be the person who kills him. So he was born in Mathura. And then when Krishna, after killing Kamsa, went to Mathura, and he eventually met his his cousin Shishupal, when he held him, then his arms disappeared. So then it was foretold, he's going to kill him. And his mother begged Krishna not to kill him. And Krishna said, no, I would never, I won't kill him, even if he makes 100 offenses. If he makes, if he can make up to 100 offenses to me and I won't kill him. Yes. I don't know actually. I don't know actually why, I don't know any of these sciences. But I mean, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was holding him. So if you wanted, it was more so somehow or other, because he had like some type of like, everyone thought he was divine actually, like God, because, Narayan comes with four arms and like that. So, in Krishna's presence, he is no longer like God, and so he was minimized to like human. So, but actually, Shishupal is a divine personality as well. You may have heard of Hiranyakashipu and Ravan and like this. You've heard of these guys before? You never heard of Ravan? You know the Ramayana? Yeah, yeah, Ravana. Yeah, so this is actually Ravana's next incarnation. And where they come from, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, they were actually devotees of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And to display the Shrishti Leela, having good fights and good lessons here in the material world, they actually chose to fall and come as a service. So anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But Shishupal played the role of a really good demon. And at the Rajasuya, he actually insulted Krishna 100 times. He finally tallied up his 100 insults to Krishna. And then Krishna had to do laser surgery on him with the Sudarshan chakra. And then why is it laser surgery? Because it had to be done so finely that not a drop of blood could be spilled. Because if one drop of blood was spilled, my son he's glorifying someone, hopefully Krishna. One drop of blood was spilled, it would ruin the whole sacrifice. And because Yudhishthira so dearly wanted to do this sacrifice to glorify Krishna, Krishna was the only one who would be able to perform the laser surgery. Bhima wanted to kill him, Bhishma, everyone wanted to kill him for what he was saying about Krishna. And everyone was ready to do it, but Krishna himself, with the Sudarshan, uh, he sliced off his head, but his head was practically left on because uh, so it wouldn't spill not a drop of blood. So it was a very marvelous feat. But anyway, um, that's why Yudhishthira, he had the whole Rajasuya, but him, the Pandavas, everyone were pure devotees of the Lord. And Dhrtarastra, they ultimately turned against the devotees of the Lord. So you have to be very careful. One, you have to learn who are the devotees of the Lord, and then you should always I want to be on their side. Whatever they're doing, I want to be with them. Why? If you're not with the devotees of the Lord, then you're also is that a cat or my son? Okay, that was an odd cry. But if you're
That's a cat.
that's a cat.
That's a cat. Yeah, there's a cat. Stefani.
the heck's going on out here? Anyway, um, that's strange. So anyway, yeah, this is a very what's that? It would technically ruin the sacrifice. And because Yudhishthir wanted to have the sacrifice pristine so that Krishna could be glorified, Krishna, he always fulfills his devotees' desires. So he made sure that Yudhishthir, um, who was the very pious king of the world at that point, didn't have his desire to glorify, to do devotional service ruined. So this is why. But Dhritarashtra, because he was inimical to the Vaishnavas and never fully repented for it, he wasn't able, even though he did get liberated from material life, he wasn't able to really go past the liberation stage. So, yeah, this is his misfortune, but it's also good for us. He's teaching us now what not to do. That any type of offenses to the Vaishnavas, we really must do our utmost best to rectify these things, or we will be barred from deeper levels of devotional advancement. What was the thing?
Two cats were standing with their faces an inch away from each other, screaming at each other.
Okay. I was like that. I'd never heard my son cry like that. That's strange. But anyway, yes, you got his first cry. Everyone thought was a cat. But anyhow, um, yeah. So this is the situation. We have to be very careful not to make offenses to devotees. And if you do, because in our neophyte stage, we'll just inevitably do it. We'll make some offenses. And then if we do, we have to just try to rectify it. Any type of, you know, anything that you can do to rectify the situation, serve the devotee like this, because it happens in the beginning, you don't know better. So you don't realize, oh, that's you might not even know that's an offense, or you might not realize that, oh, my behavior is offensive actually. And devotees are so tolerant, they just accept, no problem, no problem, no problem. But actually, it is a problem for Krishna. You can offend Krishna actually 100 times, and it's not as big a problem as offending his devotee. So you have to be very careful with the Lord's devotees. And it could actually, as you see here, it could determine your destination. It will determine your destination. If you have the tendency to offend devotees, you will not be able to go to higher levels of existence, and you will have to go and rectify these things. Now, one may ask, one may say, well, I've been walking around like a jerk for many lifetimes. I've probably offended millions upon millions of devotees. What do I do? I don't even know who I offended at this point. Yes, this is a good question. So the answer actually is given by Lord Chaitanya to this was to Jagai, he was also actually the next incarnation of Shishupal, and Jagai and Dantavakra. They were, Jai and Vijay coming in Chaitanya Lila, but they created many offenses. And Nityananda Prabhu, he gave him the seva of do something to serve the Vaishnavas. And in specific, he said, have this bathing ghat nice and clean so that the Vaishnavas can do their rituals and enjoy the waters of the Ganga and like this. So do a really nice service to the Vaishnavas. And in that serving the Vaishnavas, all offenses can be rectified. But if you know who you offended, you immediately have to go to that person. This is highlighted in the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj in Durvasa Muni in the Bhagavatam. You might have heard this pastime. If not, you'll eventually get it to it in maybe another 3 years when we at this rate, if you keep studying here. But anyhow, yes, we must be very careful. And if we don't know, our best bet, if we don't know what we've done, in our offensive neophyte stage, now we should do everything to serve the Vaishnavas. So like for instance here, if I hear Vaishnavas want to come here, I don't care what Sangha or where they're coming from, there's Vaishnavas, yes, we should have the Vaishnavas over. We should do some service to them. And in serving the Vaishnavas, we'll please them, and this ultimately pleases Krishna. So this is the secret. So just please Vaishnavas and you'll be very happy. And Krishna will be very happy. So, Dhritarashtra attained liberation only, and after many such liberated states of life, one can attain to the stage of devotional service. Vidura was certainly very mortified by the death of his brother and sister-in-law, and the only remedy to mitigate such lamentation was to go out to pilgrimage. Thus, Maharaj Yudhishthira had no chance to call back Vidura, his surviving uncle. So Vidura, he was happy to see Dhritarashtra take the path of the yogi and pretty much dissolve his material existence. But his transcendental destination hasn't fully been assured. Who knows where Dhritarashtra is now? I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure it goes into detail about that anymore. But um, he gained something much better than this material existence, actually. And this being absorbed in the temporary material things of this world, this is mentioned as this is what fools will do, actually. You just be absorbed in things like, for instance, your job, uh, girl, boy, relationship, children, family, friends, what the social life is, things like this. If we become absorbed in this thing, all of these things will be lost, and then we're just by nature disappointed. It's just science, you know. Everything that comes to fruition here will also come to decay as well. That's just it. So if you put all of your energy, your time, and your consciousness in these things, you have to, all those, your consciousness has to meet death, actually. It's like Mukunda Prabhu gave a wonderful example the past few days about absorbing yourself in a movie that has nothing to do with your life, but because you're absorbed in the movie now, and now the plot twist of the character, now they're controlling your destiny. If they make the movie have a sad ending, you'll have a sad ending. If they make the movie have a happy ending, you'll have a happy ending. But because you're absorbed in this thing, it's out of your control at this point. But if you absorb yourself in the Supreme Lord, he's Ram. Ram is the source of pleasure. You're guaranteed pleasure in this. You're guaranteed pleasure if you absorb yourself in the Lord. But you absorb yourself in Maya, that which is not, you will not get pleasure. There will be not be pleasure. You will not get a wonderful, beautiful existence that Krishna is the all attractive, all beautiful one. Um, and you'll have all kinds of problems and troubles. So it's a no-brainer, but you have to understand kind of the inner workings of reality. You have to understand karma. You have to understand the modes of nature, how everything's working. Yes.
So I'd say it's literally a no-brainer because your brain will try to tell you otherwise.
That is not my intention of saying like that, but yes, that was Krishna kind of speaking in that way. Yes, this is it, once the intelligence gets in the way, that's why when we chant, we don't chant with the index finger. You know why? Because mudras, they're different mudras connect to different parts of the body. And if you want to have a nice refined intelligence, you do the Gyan mudra. But actually in chanting, in bhakti, you need some Sambandha Gyan to get bhakti, but once the bhakti is there, Krishna says uh, you know, he says in Bhagavad Gita, you need to chop down this material existence with the axe of knowledge. Well, with the sharp sword of knowledge. But he says in Uddhav Gita, same thing, you chop down this material existence with the axe of knowledge, but then he gives it a further instruction, and then you throw the axe away. It's like when you're done chopping down a tree, you don't carry the axe anymore. Well, now I'm the axe man. No, you have the axe. It was good. It was useful tool. You have this jnana. Now put this to the side. Why? Because the intelligence at one point, it's not going to be able to grasp God. And then from that point, your surrender and your relationship with God, He will do all of that actually. So yes, we do want to get to the no-brainer stage, but in the beginning, we need a brain. We need a brain to establish sambandha. We need the brain to establish who are we, who is Krishna, and what is the relationship. And then once that's fully and firmly understood, then we don't need the brain anymore because we have the relationship. We said, okay, I got that thing. I have my goal. Brain, you get out of here. Don't need it anymore. Um, that's why all of the Vrajbasis, they don't know Krishna's God. They have no brain for understanding that Krishna is God. They have no brain for understanding all of the, even though they're the topmost devotees, they're totally absorbed in Krishna now, and that's just not part of the script. It's not a good part of the script. So like that, let's just say, uh, what's your dad's name, Abani? Rohit? So let's say Rohit became the president, the prime minister of India. Now Modi is retired, and he said, Mr. Rohit, please, you become the prime minister. So if you have your relationship with your father, you'll still like to call him dad and associate like that. But now everyone's Mr. President, Mr. President. You're not going to be like, oh, Mr. President, Mr. President. Maybe throw some joke, but he's your dad. It's a special relationship. So similarly, Krishna with his pure devotees, they have a very special relationship. And then it's, oh, God, 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 God. And he's not, no, 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 please don't call me God. I'm your dad, but it's not like that. It depends on the relationship. But anyway, but Dhritarashtra, he missed the boat. And then also Vidura, he went back to pilgrimage. He became a wandering sadhu, and this is very nice. So now the last verse of the chapter. Ityuktva tarhuhat svagam naradasaha tumburuhu yudhishthiro vachastasya Hridi kritvaja hachchucha iti thus uktva having addressed atha thereafter aruhat ascended svargam into outer space Narada the great sage Narada saha along with tumburu his stringed instrument Yudhishthir Maharaj Yudhishthir vacha instructions tasya of his hridi kritva keeping in the heart ajahat gave up shucha all lamentations. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narada, along with his Vina, ascended into outer space. Yudhishthir kept his instruction in his heart, and so was able to get rid of all lamentations. Purport. Sri Naradaji is an eternal spaceman. I love how Prabhupada, describes him as such. Having been endowed with a spiritual body, by the grace of the Lord, he can travel in the outer spaces of both the material and spiritual worlds without restriction, and can approach any planet in unlimited space within no time. We have already discussed his previous life as the son of a maidservant. This was earlier chapters of this canto, because of his association with pure devotees. He was elevated to the position of an eternal spaceman and thus had freedom of movement. One should therefore try to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni and not make a futile effort to reach other planets by mechanical means. Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pious king, and therefore he could see Narada Muni occasionally. Anyone who desires to see Narada Muni must first be pious and follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni. Actually, it's very interesting he's talking like this, because if you heard a couple of the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, there's been a few times where in spiritual ecstasy, devotees have witnessed Prabhupada either mention or referring to Narada Muni being present in the midst of the Sangha a few times. So there's you can look up these on your own time if you'd like. But it's very interesting. So as the great devotees do, they have much work spreading enlightenment all over the universe. So then they come, they go. But if you keep the instructions in the heart, you'll be able to get rid of all of the lamentations, because their instructions are giving you the ultimate good news. So when the devotees leave, we lament. It's natural, actually. Like today, it's just a little less charged. It's not a little, a lot less charged. Mukunda Prabhu is here. We had, so many sadhus have come. And every time they come, they charge us up and we're enthusiastic and we're ready to go. But then we have to come back down to our real level, because they're propping us up. And then now from here, we have to keep going forward. But if we keep their instructions in our heart, we'll be able to get rid of all lamentations. So, that's why it's very important when the sadhus come, you associate with the sadhus. Get some instructions, take some instructions in the heart. And then you can keep that with you, and that will nourish you and keep you going forward in your devotional life. So, all right. Oh, this is my least favorite chapter. The disappearance of Lord Krishna. So this is part of he was talking about it, the Mosya Lila or something like this. I don't want to speak on a word, I have no idea. But the disappearance of Krishna. Sutu vacha samprastite dvarakayam Jishno bandhu didrikshaya Gyatung cha punya shlokasya Krishnasya cha vicheshtitam Sutuvacha. Sri Suta Goswami said, Samprastite, having gone to Dvarakayam, a city of Dwarka, Jishno, Arjuna, Bandhu, friends and relatives, Didrikshaya, for meeting them, Gyatum, to know, Cha, also, Punya Shlokasya, of one whose glories are sung by Vedic hymns. Krishnasya, of Lord Krishna, Cha, and Vicheshitam, further programs of work. Sri Suta Goswami said Arjuna went to Dwarka to see Lord Sri Krishna and other friends, and also to learn from the Lord of his next activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descended on earth for the protection of the faithful and annihilation of the impious. So after the battle of Kurukshetra and the establishment of Maharaj Yudhishthir, the mission of the Lord was complete. The Pandavas, especially Sri Arjuna, were eternal companions of the Lord, and therefore Arjuna went to Dwarka to hear from the Lord of his next program of work. Arjuna is going to be disappointed. But yes, Arjuna is always very happy, and he doesn't have the same responsibility of Yudhishthir being the king. So he actually gets to go, all right, I want to go be stationed over here in Dwarka. And he can go and be, and also his wife is in Dwarka. He has Subhadra is Arjuna's wife. I don't know if you know this. When we worship Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, it's Arjuna's wife. So he has relations in Dwarka. Vyatita katichin masa tadanaya tatorjuna tadarsha gora rupani nimitani kurudvaha Vyatita, after passing, katichit, a few, masa, months, tada, at that time, na ayat, did not return, tata, from there, Arjuna, Tadarsha, observed, Gora, fearful, Rupani, appearances, Nimitani, various causes, Kuru Udbaha, Maharaj Yudhishthir. A few months passed, and Arjuna did not return. Maharaj Yudhishthir then began to observe some inauspicious omens, which were fearful in themselves. We've talked about this before, but if you pay attention to the environment around you, you'll actually get a lot of signs from Krishna via the external form, the universal form. Hey, is this auspicious? Is this inauspicious? Things like this. A lot of it has to do with animals, but you can see many different. The environment is always trying to tell you something. So in the Vedas, you understand omens. Even the Native Americans, they had totem spirit animals. This was their version of trying to understand omens. So if you've seen, I've seen that me and my wife, I used to kind of tease my wife for it because she would always like look for spirit animals and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is a bunch of hippie stuff. Like, what are you doing? But actually, as I, was remembering from the Bhagavatam and other things, I started paying attention more. And now we like it's crazy the type of deciphering we've gotten from the from like Krishna via the omens that are always present. So anyhow, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is ad infinitum, more powerful than the most powerful sun of our experience. Millions and billions of suns are created by him and annihilated by him with his one breathing period. In the material world, the sun is considered to be the source of all productivity and material energy, and only due to the sun can we have the necessities of life. Like the Gayatri Mantra, for instance, it's actually all about glorifying the sun's divine rays and being enthused by these divine rays. But this is, millions and billions of suns, just in maybe one universe are there. But this is the case. So this is ad infinitum, the Lord. He underpins and oversees the complete creation. We sing it, right? That's cute. So therefore, during the personal presence of the Lord on the earth, all paraphernalia for our peace and prosperity, especially religion and knowledge, were in full displays because of the Lord's presence. Just as there is a full flood of light in the presence of the glowing sun, Maharaj Yudhishthira observed some discrepancies in his kingdom, and therefore he became very anxious about Arjuna, who was long absent, and there was also no news about Dwarka's well-being. He suspected the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there would have been no possibility of fearful omens. So the omens are revealing to Yudhishthira something is definitely wrong here. I think what we'll do, because I actually didn't do my proper duty of glorifying our Guru Varga before speaking. So maybe we can end by doing what I should have done in the beginning. I can ask for forgiveness. So maybe we can chant. Yeah. Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishnu Sanatana Bhutale Swayam Bhagavate Radhi Saranam Vadya Shri Guru Shri Radha Ram Ashwanja Shri Radha Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagamata Shri Vasudha He Krishna Kara Sindhu Nirmalo Jayapate Gopesha Namaste Tapchatam Charagora Hare Vrindavaneshwari Hare Priya Panchakarmanyasya Sadhivacha Adhitam Bhagavate Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna 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 Saraswati Devi Gaurani Acharya Devashesha Is there any question or comment maybe specifically for Avani? No other question. So yes, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam. Hi, thank you guys for joining for the morning program. We do this, Avani, every day. When we have a main program like last night, we wouldn't normally do this portion in the morning because we had a guest. He did this portion in the morning, but we only do one Hare Katha Arti, the whole thing, once a day. It's just otherwise it gets to be a bit much for our capacity. So so yeah, you can come any day, and if not, we'll have a program every day. We'll have something to do with spiritual life and making spiritual advancement. Anyone who practices this will also make material advancement as well. Like for instance, Parth is a PhD student, and I don't mean to toot his horn, but he's always going different places due to some awards he's doing and he's getting in his material activities. Why? Because he, through this yogic process, he's learned the art of balancing his life very accordingly, and he's charged and nourished by his spiritual life. So he's even able to do his material duties very nicely. So anyhow, I wish that for you and all of you here. If you want to learn how to do that, you talk to Parth. So, and Hare Krishna, thank you guys, and enjoy breakfast. Haribol. Thanks for joining.